word illumination comes from the Latin illuminare, meaning to light up. Illumination was the technique of decorating manuscripts in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. The name comes from the radiant glow created by the shining gold, silver, and radiant colors used in the process. In early medieval times, monks were the sole creators of illuminated manuscripts. They copied text used for worship, such as Bibles and other important religious writings. Historical records and classical literature were also occasionally commissioned from monasteries by wealthy rulers. These religious scribes worked in a special writing room known as a scriptorium. Monks would often travel long distances to obtain books to copy and illuminate. As the age progressed, the craft of illumination spread to other areas of life. By the early Renaissance, monks were no longer the only scribes. Reading and owning books became more common with the expansion of universities and the rise of the middle class, and now booksellers could hire scribes and illuminators to copy books for their customers. Illumination was no longer a coveted religious practice, but a money-making trade. This tutorial will focus on the art of illumination, so we will begin with a manuscript that is already copied in calligraphy. As you can see, the page has been ruled in lead point, in our case pencil, and the space inside the margins has been filled with text. In medieval times, the illumination would have been done on handmade parchment or vellum, two common animal skin surfaces. The skin was treated, then stretched and scraped to obtain paper thinness. However, for our purposes, we will be using a parchment textured paper. The first line of a section of a manuscript would be copied over in red lead pigment. This functioned much like a title, allowing readers to skim through a manuscript and quickly determine the content of a section. This process was called rubrication. First step to illumination was to create an outline in lead point or quillen ink. Here we are using pencil, which is most similar to lead point. The first and most important aspect of a design was the initial which started a manuscript. Typically, space would be left for the artist to draw an elaborate letter with which the page would begin. The initial would typically weave over the margins and would often incorporate human figures or scenes related to the content of the manuscript. These were called historiated initials. After the initial was sketched, the artist would create an elaborate design in lead point or ink. These designs were often abstract, but also incorporated themes or images from the text. Most illuminations that survive today were copies of the original art done by a more skilled craftsman. Only the most experienced and skilled illuminators could work freehand to create such beautiful designs. Others used thin parchment to create stencils of the designs, so that they could be recreated over and over. After the design was sketched and inked, color pigments were added to bring the pages to life. The most common, and by extension the cheapest pigments, were red, green, and blue. However, more high-status manuscripts included a wider variety of colors, such as yellow, rose, and orange. These pigments were made with a wide variety of both organic and inorganic materials. One such pigment, known as ultramarine, was mined exclusively from northern Afghanistan and came from the famously blue mineral lapis lazuli. It created an exquisitely rich blue color when properly prepared and was extremely difficult to come by until the 13th century. The pigments were applied with brushes or pens, as seen here. The richest illuminated manuscripts from the Middle Ages included gold and silver in their designs. Gold was more commonly used, since silver had a tendency to tarnish quickly and lose its shine. The term illumination comes from the glowing nature of these pages embossed with gold and silver. There were two main methods to applying gold to the design. The first was pressing gold leaf into a page using a glue-like substance, then burnishing it to a beautiful shine. This technique produced the most stunning results, but had to be done before the color was added to the design, so that the burnishing did not destroy the other pigments. The second method, and the one we are recreating here, involved mixing gold powder with gum, which was then applied like the other pigments with a pen or brush. This created a kind of gold paint effect and was done after the other pigments were already applied. Here's our completed illumination. Notice how, as the page moves, the gold gleams in the light. This was important to the illuminators of the Middle Ages and is what gives this ancient and beautiful art form its name.